So what does it mean to be a professional? I hear this word used a lot, and I wanted to make a video, especially for my students, because I wanted them to kind of ponder this thought. But I figured I'd post it because there might be some other people out there that this could benefit. Some people think that being a professional means that you get paid to do a certain thing and you're a professional at that thing. So if you get paid to make pottery and you sell your pottery and you get money for that and then you use that money to pay for your electric bill and your rent and your food, well then you're a professional pottery maker. And there is this kind of connection between how we earn a living, our livelihood. I don't have a problem with that definition. Specifically in the music industry, and I imagine in other industries as well, there's also a sort of status that comes from being referred to as a professional. You've achieved a high level of performance ability or talent or technique or skill, whatever words you want to use, and that could be associated with the term professional. You know, that person is a professional skateboarder. Maybe or maybe not paying their bills with it, but they have reached kind of the highest level of achievement that the world of skateboarding has seen, and so that's a professional skateboarder. And musicians often will use that term as well. You can be a professional clarinetist if you're playing at an extremely high level. Maybe you're a lawyer during the day. I don't know. But sometimes the word gets used like that. So there are these definitions that are out there, and I think that everybody who's studying to be better at something should think about what it means to be a professional blank. So I'm a musician, so let's talk about being a professional musician. I work in academia now, college teacher, so let's talk about being a professional academic. What does it mean to be a professional in that way? When I was an undergraduate, I remember thinking I was a student, and I remember approaching things as if I was a student, and there was this concept that someday in the future I would be a professional, and when I was a professional, things would magically be different. All of a sudden, I would be, my standards would be really, really high because I was really good, and all of these things would kind of happen. And I approached it, for some reason, I approached it with this notion that I would eventually get there. I would eventually ascend to that level of success, whatever we want to call that. And then there was a point, I think I was in graduate school, I was in my mid-20s, and I realized that I was really approaching it backwards. I was really approaching it all wrong. Actually, no, it was my senior year in undergraduate. I kind of flipped a switch on this one. Instead of putting the chicken before the egg, why don't you put the egg before the chicken? Go the other way around. And I realized, okay, well, what does it mean to be a professional? Okay, well, we've got the definitions and we've got the ways that we use the word, but what would a professional do in blank situation? So if I went to an ensemble rehearsal, I thought to myself, well, what would a professional do in this ensemble rehearsal? How would they conduct themselves? How would they prepare for this ensemble rehearsal? And I started thinking about what would be the highest level, of awesome, that would be professional in that context. And so I started preparing for ensemble rehearsals more. I started getting the score to the pieces that we were playing. I started listening to more recordings. I started making sure that by the time I got to the first rehearsal, I was ready to go. I would number all of my measures so that they lined up with the score and I could go back and forth more easily during rehearsals. Or if I had a question, I knew right where we were pretty much at any given time. And when I started treating it as if I was a professional, almost pretending I was a professional in terms of how I conducted myself in that rehearsal, my ensemble playing got better and better and better. When I went to the practice room, I said, well, what would a professional do in this moment? How would a professional practice this concept or this etude or this excerpt, what have you? And I started thinking, well, what would that highest level of achievement be? And then I started doing that in my classes, and I started saying, okay, well, if I'm a professional academic and I'm going to this class, how would a professional handle this? Well, they'd do their homework, they would show up prepared, they'd be ready for conversation, actively capable of engaging in thoughtful discourse over the materials. And I also thought that there would be this sense of pride in doing that well in kind of all of those aspects. And so I started just pretending I was a professional. I woke up and said, all right, I'm choosing to be a professional. I'm going to be a professional academic. I'm going to be a professional bass trombonist starting today. And once I did that, the way that I approached everything I was doing really took a new level of productivity on. And I started getting more and more successful at what I was doing. And it reminded me, I've done some study in kinesiology and I've learned a little bit about health and wellness. And one of the things that people do, let's say they want to lose weight. Let's say you weigh 200 pounds and you want to weigh 185 pounds. Well, one of the things you can do is you can calculate what your body mass index is. You can calculate how many calories you would need to eat to sustain your current mass, your current size. And if you weigh 200 pounds and you have to eat, X number of calories. Well, if you then just do the same mathematical equations, but instead of being 200 pounds, you put in 185, now you have figured out what the caloric intake is for someone that is 185 pounds. And if you start eating that way and start exercising and burning the calories and living that way, you will eventually turn into a 185 pound person. It's inevitable. And so when you think about the goal and you just say, all right, well, I'm going to be the goal, and then you act as if you are already there, then you will gravitate towards being there. And so when I took that concept and applied it to what I do on the horn, in the classroom, basically anything I'm doing now professionally, it totally changed. Everything changed after that point. So if you are currently a student and you are wondering when that doorway is going to open, or when your ship is going to come in, or when you're suddenly going to be able to kind of ascend into this all-star status of being a professional, don't wait. Just start making those decisions now. It's not rocket science. It doesn't take rocket science wizardry to think about what it would take to be the best at blank. And if you're not sure, then ask those questions. Talk to professional players. How did you prepare? How were you practicing in the practice room? Sometimes I get the question, well, how much do you practice every day? That's not really the most effective question to get, the information. How does somebody approach working on some kind of concept, or how do they approach the excerpts, or how do they approach, this or that? And it doesn't have to be just music. I think it's industry wide. But when I took on that mentality, everything changed. And so I implore you to think about that when you are going down whatever path you want to go down. Just make the choice to be that way now, and then you will slowly gravitate your way towards that end.